Greetings! Welcome to the Mind of Brandon, and welcome back to another Thursday Theory. Today we're going to be talking about Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Andrew Yang, Kamala Harris, etc. And we're also going to be talking about universal basic income versus the resource-based economy. Now, I was inspired to make this video in lieu of a comment that I received on my most recent video titled, "What Bernie Sanders Said That Pissed Me Off." Now, just a few hours after uploading that video to YouTube, I noticed that it had received 5 thumbs down, but there was no one in the comments section explaining what was actually wrong with the video. Now, I can't say for sure whether this is true, but applying Occam's razor, it seems the simplest explanation is that it pissed off some Bernie supporters. Their emotional reaction is to thumb down the video, and they don't actually have any good rebuttals, so they don't leave any comments. They're just like, oh, fuck this guy, thumb down his video, and probably don't even finish watching the video. So I left a comment in my own comment section, just kind of pointing out, so far this video has gotten 5 thumbs down, but there's no arguments in the comment section, right? But this morning, I did receive a comment in response to my comment. Here's what it said.
I didn't thumb either way, but I believe Bernie's ideology is about making sure everyone is able to live a decent life.
Agreed. That does appear to be his objective. The question is, how effectively is he going to be able to carry out that objective if he thinks that he's got a better idea than Andrew Yang's plan for a universal basic income? Keeping in mind, of course, that Bernie's better idea is to guarantee that people can get jobs as doctors or dentists or engineers or counselors, stuff like that. Jobs I don't want to do. Keeping in mind, I've already got a job that I'm really not that fond of. Used to work 6 days a week. Now I'm down to 2 days a week for health reasons. It's nice to have that extra freedom, but at the same time, there's still some anxiety there about the fact of not making as much money. So being given $1,000 a month that I don't have to do additional work for would really be good for me. I don't see why Bernie Sanders looks at it as though I don't see why he thinks that his idea is something that should be done instead of universal basic income. That doesn't make any sense. Why can't you do both? Why can't you inspire people to become doctors and engineers and counselors and provide people with a universal basic income? If you look at Andrew Yang's policies, you'll see that he's going to be working on both. Not only will he be giving us $1,000 a month, but he's going to be working on making college more affordable, which of course means that it's going to be easier for people to get their positions as doctors and dentists and engineers, etc. So while Bernie might be trying to make things better for everyone, that's not going to work. It's not going to be better for me if he says, nope, no universal basic income. What would be better for me is if I got to have my universal basic income, please. Thank you.
$1,000 a month doesn't do that by itself, and I'm not even sure $1,000 buys everything a modern person needs. I live in Sweden, though, so I don't know.
Well, I think there's technically some places in the United States where $1,000 a month would be enough to cover not only a person's rent, but also on top of that, any food that they need that month. I could be wrong about that. I don't really expect to win that debate. But for me personally, it's not about replacing my job with $1,000 a month that I don't even have to work for. It's about getting $1,000 a month that I don't even have to work for, on top of the money that I'm making with the work that I do. That said, if I just worked a couple more days a week and got the $1,000 a month that I don't have to do any extra work for, well, that all by itself would probably be enough to make me feel more comfortable moving out of my mom's house and getting my own place. It's hard to say for sure right now before actually doing the experiment, but my prediction is that if I got my own place, that would actually pretty noticeably improve my quality of life. I would think it would certainly improve my luck with the ladies, not being a 35-year-old that still lives with his mom.
Isn't there also a risk of such a system creating an even bigger and more impenetrable class divide?
I'm not really sure how it would. You might have to explain the mechanics of that to me, but at the same time, I'm not really the kind of person to go through life worrying about a economic gap that exists between myself and people who are significantly richer than I am. It really doesn't bother me that much that there are people who can afford to buy certain things that I'm never going to be able to afford. Like, I have no need for a giant mansion or my own personal jet. I understand why someone who has a whole bunch of kids and likes to travel, I understand why they might have a use for a giant mansion and a jet, or if they just like to throw these like giant awesome parties with like lots of food and drinking and stuff. That's it's understandable then why they might want a giant freaking party house or a party jet. I mean, as we discussed, I'd like to be financially secure enough that I could move out of my mom's house, get my own place, a place where I can comfortably live, have girls come over, right? But it doesn't need to be a mansion, right? So it's not like I'm bothered by just like the principle that there are people who have significantly more money than I am. They live in like mansions and they fly jets, etc. That being said, if everyone's being given $1,000 a month, that means that the poorest people in our nation are not going to be as poor as they used to be. They've got $1,000 a month coming in that they weren't getting previously. So it's not like it's the kind of thing where the rich become richer and the poor become poorer. Yes, the rich become richer, but so do the poor. So the worst case scenario that I could come up with is maybe giving everyone $1,000 a month will somehow result in price increases that make it pointless to even have a universal basic income. I don't think that's very likely. I accept it as a possibility, like maybe that'll happen. But I just don't see us getting rid of the dollar menu or the dollar store, because we have this like universal basic income.
I want to like UBI, but I think RBE is way better.
Well, not that Bernie or any of the other candidates are proposing an RBE, but you're right, that would be way better than a UBI. And for anyone who's not familiar with RBE, what that stands for is resource-based economy. This is an idea that comes from a guy named Jacques Fresco. He actually sometimes calls it the resource-based global economy, because that was what he was envisioning for the future, is that we'd have a resource-based economy on a global scale. Technically, you can have, kind of more like localized resource-based economies, but it's not going to be the same thing. But what Fresco envisioned was a system where people all over the world would live in these new pre-planned cities that are as self-sustaining as possible, run on clean, renewable resources as much as possible, recycle as much as possible, reuse as much as possible. They'd have smarter homes, smarter roads, smarter transportation. They could even utilize innovations like vertical farms and 3D printers. These cities would come with resource-sharing access centers that work kind of like the public library, except with no late fees, and they come with more variety in the kinds of resources that can be shared. And these would be highly automated cities where machines do all the jobs that nobody wants to do. All the really shitty jobs that people are only willing to do if you pay them. So through automated processes, we could provide everyone that lives in these cities all over the world with access to the things that they need without a price tag, because you don't have to pay machines. And this is why it's better than a universal basic income, because it renders the monetary system obsolete. Makes it so there's no point in even having money. No reason to buy, no reason to sell, there's just no point. You get to have things without having to pay for them. And while we do have the resources necessary and the technological capability necessary to implement a resource-based global economy, it's going to take some time to do it. We don't even have a test city completed yet. Because, we got to start with a test city that, it actually works the way that it's supposed to. And that might take some time. That there's probably going to be some kinks to work out. Okay, so we have to get a test city up and running the way that it's supposed to, that can be used kind of like as a theme park, a place that people can go visit, see what it'd be like to live in one of these cities. So they can be like, oh, this is great. We should do this all over the world, right? And then, once we've got this working test city that's working the way it's supposed to, and there's a demand for, to live in these kinds of cities, that's when we can start building these cities all over the world. This is going to take a long time. So while I do love the concept of an RBE and think that we should definitely be moving in that direction, we can still have a UBI until then.
That said, though, I don't hate Andrew Yang, and I think it would be awesomely interesting to see his vision become reality. I just hope the Democrats don't put up another fucking lab-grown, soulless, manipulative, lying sack of shit against Trump.
You, of course, are talking about Hillary. Yeah, that was pretty depressing when it came down to a choice between her and Donald Trump. I don't know how Hillary would have presided if she had won, but I definitely wouldn't have expected her to have done anything particularly noteworthy. I think she would have just wound up being another disappointing president in a long history of disappointing presidents. I certainly wouldn't have expected her to have done anything to noticeably improve my quality of life, or probably anyone's life for that matter. So hopefully Democratic voters learn their lesson and don't let the wrong candidate get too far up in the polls again. Hopefully they pick someone who's actually going to do something that will noticeably improve people's quality of life. I mean, if it comes down to a choice between Joe Biden and Trump, we'll probably just see Trump get reelected, which, of course, doesn't really do anything to improve anyone's quality of life.
I'm gonna fucking puke if Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, or Beto O'Rourke gets it.
Yeah, of the people you just listed off, I think Joe Biden is the one I would least want to get it. He, of course, is the only Democratic candidate who is opposed to the legalization of marijuana. I'm not like a pothead or anything. I actually live in a state where it's already legal. But I think it's really important that this plant be mass produced all over the nation because it's useful for more than just if you smoke it, it gets you high. There's really all sorts of other things that the plant comes in handy for. That said, I do actually want to give Kamala Harris credit for coming up with an idea that is kind of similar to what Andrew Yang has in mind with the universal basic income. Kamala Harris also wants to give certain people a certain amount of money on a monthly basis. It's not as much money. It's actually a different amount of money for different people. Some people wouldn't even be getting money, I guess, because they don't need it. I guess that makes sense. Also, I want to give her credit for being one of the few candidates who has actually talked about decriminalizing prostitution. I've been kind of disappointed that there aren't more candidates talking about, we got to legalize this or decriminalize it, something like that. I know that Tulsi Gabbard has talked about decriminalizing prostitution. I think Pete Buttigieg is sympathetic to that. I'm a little unclear on that. Yeah, I haven't heard anything from Andrew Yang on that, but I will say that if people are getting $1,000 a month, that probably gives them less incentive to resort to prostituting themselves, which is fine. I'd rather have the $1,000 a month anyway. That said, I know that Bernie Sanders was asked if he supported decriminalizing sex work, and he says, "That's a good question. I don't have an answer for that." It's a little ironic coming from the guy who shoots down universal basic income because he thinks he can guarantee that he's going to help people get work. But yeah, basically I feel like Andrew Yang is like objectively the best candidate that we have available to us. So, if anyone disagrees with that, I definitely want to see what your arguments are down in the comment section, or if you want to like post a video response or whatever. That said, thank you to the commenter. That was a great comment. Got some good discussion out of that. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with other people. If you're interested in watching my future videos, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next one. So have a good one, guys, and peace.